Welcome into the Chiefs Report. We have some news coming down following the closure of the NFL trade deadline. Just minutes before, DeAndre Washington has been sent from Kansas City to the Miami Dolphins in a bit of a surprising move. I'm surprised that the Chiefs were able to get something for DeAndre Washington, but here we are. They're able to ship him to the Miami Dolphins. Like I said, definitely a surprising move for the Kansas City Chiefs to be able to pull this off. But we'll get the trade details up on screen in just a second. DeAndre Washington, if you remember, a player that didn't even make the team out of training camp. He was placed on the practice squad, makes his way onto the 53. There was a lot of chatter, maybe they'll trade or get rid of Darwin Thompson, who was not having much of an impact for Kansas City, but he ends up sticking around. DeAndre Washington gets shipped to the Miami Dolphins in somewhat of a surprising move. Here were the trade details. Dolphins receive Washington in a 2021 seventh round pick. Kansas City gets a sixth round pick out of it. You move up one round. Hey, I think that's a pretty decent deal for the Kansas City Chiefs. So in the end, hey, not a lot of things happening at the NFL trade deadline for any team, including the Chiefs, but to get a sixth for DeAndre Washington and only move a seventh, not so bad. So, what is your one word reaction to Kansas City trading DeAndre Washington to the Miami Dolphins? Let me know down in the comments. I'm like, okay, this is a guy that didn't even make the team, like I said, out of training camp. So, to get something for him just a few weeks later, I think in the end, that's a pretty good thing overall. Now, DeAndre Washington, obviously, the Chiefs signed him this offseason. He had the connection to Patrick Mahomes dating back to their days at Texas Tech University, has carved out a decent little career. Miami clearly saw something in him because they're not getting a lot of production from Jordan Howard or from Matt Breida, so they decided to bring him on board. But for Kansas City, just too crowded of a running back room. There's just too many guys, especially now that Le'Veon Bell has gotten involved in this backfield in Kansas City. There's just too many options. I mean, where was DeAndre Washington going to fit here? You got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You got Le'Veon Bell. Darrell Williams is a player Kansas City really likes. And do you want to keep DeAndre Washington, who's 27, 28 years old? Or would you rather keep Darwin Thompson, second-year player in the NFL, and try to continue to have him develop as a young player? I think that's probably the right move and the reason that they decided to move on from DeAndre Washington instead of a guy like Darwin Thompson, considering Washington basically hasn't played this year. 3 carries, 5 yards. I think he has 1 catch for 2 yards as well. Just hasn't been able to factor in because, again, the Chiefs have simply too many bodies at that position. But for Kansas City to get something for him, I think that is a job well done by the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I do want to ask you this question. Should the Chiefs have made more trades? Let me know down in the comments section. You can type Y for yes. You can type in for no. Should Kansas City have made more trades? I'll make this the pinned comment on today's video. If you guys think they should have made more trades, go ahead, scroll on down, and you can answer right there. Now, I briefly mentioned Darwin Thompson. I think he is maybe the biggest beneficiary of this, right? Like, second-year player, has had some fumbling problems, hasn't been able to get on the field a ton, and when he hasn't always taken advantage of his opportunities, but this easily could have gone the other way. When DeAndre Washington got called up from the practice squad to the active roster, I thought, Darwin Thompson could be in trouble. His future in Kansas City could be in trouble, but instead, they trade DeAndre Washington. Maybe Thompson gets a little bit of a second chance here. He can breathe a sigh of relief and continue to get back to work. Obviously, he's not going to get a ton of opportunities behind the guys we just mentioned a few minutes ago, and Lev Bell and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and all of these guys. But overall, I think this is a good thing for Darwin Thompson. And like I said, I definitely think this was the way to go if you are the Kansas City Chiefs. You can't keep all of these backs. And DeAndre Washington before this, it just didn't make sense. So to trade the veteran to actually get something for a guy who wasn't even on the roster, remember, out of training camp in Washington, that was definitely something good overall. And for Darwin Thompson, he gets a chance to sit back, continue to learn, continue to improve, and hopefully at some point continue to be a factor for the Kansas City Chiefs. So hopefully that works out for him in the very near future. Hopefully BetUS works out for you guys on a daily basis or at least a weekly basis if you're betting on the NFL and or college football. I'm making a lot of money with these guys, and you can too. Go to chatsports.com/ChiefsBet. Use our promo code Chiefs125. That's going to get you a 125% deposit bonus. It's the best deal out there. All you got to do, Chiefs125, after you go to that link, chatsports.com/ChiefsBet. Who doesn't like making money? Bet on the Chiefs. They're a good bet every single week. And if you're not a risky gambler, just bet on the money line. 11-point favorites against Carolina. As we film this right now, the over-under is set at 52.5. I would put my money on the Chiefs in this one. By the way, I like the under as the Chiefs continue to play very, very well. Go bet on the Chiefs. Do it with BetUS. Chatsports.com/ChiefsBet. You guys can get signed up right now with BetUS and get that 125% deposit bonus. That's the place to do it. Chatsports.com/ChiefsBet. Now, Kansas City didn't do a lot here at the NFL trade deadline. They traded a guy who didn't make the roster for a sixth-round pick in DeAndre Washington. Are you guys surprised? I asked you that question. Should the Chiefs have made more trades? I didn't think that Brett Veach in this front office would be super aggressive because they made all their big moves in the offseason, right? They brought on board Le'Veon Bell after he was cut by the Jets. This team didn't need to do anything crazy. I think there were a couple of minor things they could have done, a couple of positional things, but overall, I think I'm pretty pleased with what they did here at the NFL trade deadline. Getting something for DeAndre Washington is a pretty good job. And, these are three positions I would have maybe looked at if you did want to try and improve the roster. I think linebacker is an area that's been up and down for the Chiefs this year. They've struggled to stop the run, although they looked much better against the Jets, but it's the Jets. Interior offensive line could have been another area. You've had some injuries there. Kelechi Osemele, obviously LDT opt-out. You've made a swap at center. Maybe you could have made a move, go get a guy like Alex Mack, but that did not happen. And then cornerback. Charvarius Ward has not been great in recent weeks, but overall, this Chiefs roster is really good. They're the team to beat. They're going to be a very tough out for just about anybody throughout this entire season. So you just have to stay patient, and I don't think that forcing a trade really made any sense whatsoever. This weekend's game, the Panthers and the Chiefs, we mentioned the betting line there. If you want to go make some money, do it at BetUS like I mentioned. But I think Kansas City will take care of business here. And now that the trade deadline is passed, you focus on the second half of the season. Starting with Carolina this weekend. You got a few more games here, or you got this one game here before the bye, Week 10 bye, then at Raiders, at Buccaneers, first the Broncos. Schedule kind of kicks into gear there, especially those first two games after the bye. Then it's the final stretch. Miami on the road, the Saints on the road, Falcons and Chargers at home. Then guess what? It's playoff time again. Chiefs chasing that number one seed in the AFC so they can get a first-round bye and make a run at another Super Bowl. So just to circle back, the news of the day, nothing major. The Chiefs send DeAndre Washington to the Miami Dolphins in return for a sixth-round pick. Kansas City also sent a seventh-round pick to Miami as a part of the trade. Nothing major here at the trade deadline, but that is the news, and we told you guys if the trade happened, we would break it down here on the Chiefs Report. Subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss anything when we post on the Chiefs Report.